Hello and welcome to another episode of the Petey Performance Podcast. I am sitting here with Éilish O'Dowd, who has played for quite a few teams in her time, and one of them is going to be the GWS Giants here in the AFLW. So we had a conversation about the upcoming season, her decision to come out here to Sydney and ply her trade in the AFLW, a stellar year with Dublin last year, her beginnings in Leitrim and with Ballinamore. We talked a little bit about burnout as well and transfers in the GAA. So loads of value in this conversation for you guys. I hope you enjoy it, and if you do enjoy it, please remember to like it, share it and send it. Éilish, how are you doing? Just clarified there if it's Éilish or Eilish, but it is Éilish.
Éilish, yeah. Everyone gets it wrong.
Yeah, I'd say more people get it wrong over here than at home.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like Éilish. Yeah, you get everything.
What's the funniest one you've got out of the Giants so far?
Oh, like Ellie? Like they're not even, like it's like just made up.
Do you have a nickname yet?
Dowdy.
Dowdy.
Yeah, going with Dowdy, I think.
Yeah, that's easier, I suppose, for them for sure.
Yeah, I had that when I was like playing underage with Leitrim.
Yeah.
Under 14s, Dowdy. And then I kind of lost for a couple of years, but we're back.
And it wasn't Dowdo when you were in Dublin, no?
No. No. Just Éilish.
Yeah, just Éilish. Yeah. Okay. How's it been going?
All good. Yeah.
Pre-season?
Yeah.
Very different to home?
So far, not a massive difference. I suppose we've only started in the last 2 weeks. So not a massive difference so far. We're just training 2 days a week, Monday, Wednesdays, as a group, and then kind of just doing our own training then in the meantime. So yeah, not a huge difference so far.
You must be doing a decent amount of your own training though, going by the reports that have come out. They've plastered it all over social media that you have broken or levelled the 1.2 kilometre time trial.
Yeah.
Did that surprise you?
Definitely, yeah, no, it definitely surprised me. I didn't even know there was kind of a time to beat or what the record was or
That's
anything.
nearly a good thing.
Yeah, no pressure, just go out and do your thing. Yeah, I suppose athleticism would be my strength, and I always kind of keep up the running. Even in off season, I'd be doing my own bit of training, and last couple of months there I've been doing a bit of travelling, so I've always been getting out, doing my runs, even if it's on the beach or wherever it is. So yeah, I was delighted. It's a nice boost, confidence boost.
Did they bring you in for a testing day? Did you do all that testing together as a group?
I did mine separate to other people because the season hasn't really started yet, so everyone is kind of coming in by themselves. But yeah, we were doing all the different type of testing, your CMJ and your hamstrings and your the fitness test. We did that as a whole group, so we were just kind of split into different groups and did our laps around the oval.
What was your strategy? Just take off?
Yeah, I suppose from doing athletics throughout the years, it's kind of about pacing yourself, especially with a 1.6. You really have to just not go too fast at the start because you have all this energy at the start. It's just trying to find your stride, get a good breathing pattern and just try and finish strong.
Did you get the same nerves as you would in that athletics meet that you did in that? Because that's obviously your first showing of what you're really good at on the field, which is running for the Giants.
Yeah, no, I was nervous. It was our first session together as a group, so there was probably a little bit of pressure, and I suppose me knowing that is kind of one of my strengths, that I wanted to really prove that and kind of make my mark on the first day. So yeah, a bit of nerves, but once you get going on the run, that's it. You kind of forget about all the nerves here. You just get stuck in.
It wouldn't have been something that was too foreign to you, though, I would say, because lots of GA players have played with the same club, the same county for their whole career, so they just get used to being around the same people. But you're in an interesting position given that the move to Dublin spurred you to obviously play college level and then change club and play for a different club and then play for a different county. So that's not a new position you've been in where you've been going in and meeting new girls, although this time around it's probably slightly different in that you knew absolutely no one.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose I've experience in that line. I didn't find the whole transition too difficult. I suppose I've played with that many teams throughout the years. Going up to Nafina, like, I knew nobody. I remember going in on my first session, and the coach, Mullo at the time, he was like, "Oh, who do you know in there?" I was like, "No one," absolutely no one. And the same going over to, I spent a summer in New York playing with Kerry Donegal. Same thing, just joined a brand new group of girls, and the more you do it, like, the easier it gets. It's always daunting, but I've been so lucky. Like, the girls I'm joining are always so welcoming, and it really helps the whole transition into the team.
That is a very difficult thing to do, though. Like, I would say a lot of people would struggle with that, in that they don't have a crutch of a friend or somebody that they know even slightly to lean on when they go into that group. Do you think that the first time you did it was probably the hardest, and then it's got progressively easier over time?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. First time I did it, I'm trying to think what was the first. Probably was joining a college team, or I think even before that was going over to New York, and like that was even more challenging because you don't have your family to go home to in the evening. You don't know anyone. Like, I remember going over to New York for the summer. It was kind of just to go for the experience, like your J1 experience, and yeah, I knew no one over there either. So I think it's probably best to just jump down in the deep end, and it makes it down the line easier to do when you're faced with those challenges.
We have had a bit of a joke there about your new nickname, and maybe there might be a potential bit of slagging in and amongst the group already, which would be nothing new to you, I'm sure, being from Leitrim and then playing in Dublin. But what's the major differences that you've noticed between the groups, or is it very much the exact same as a club or team back home?
Yeah, I suppose I'm only 2 weeks in, so far in terms of like training, I don't see a massive difference. The intensity and like the gym work we're doing, the running, the skills, besides the sport, the intensity of everything is quite similar. And I suppose being in with Dublin last year, there was a lot of new faces on the team, including myself, and that's actually quite similar now to the Giants. There's 8 new girls that have joined this year. So it's actually quite similar to last year in that at the start of the year, there's a lot of new people, and we're all trying to learn how the Giants play and their style of play. So it's kind of nice for me in a way that I'm not just this new person that's come into the team.
Talk to me about the excitement or nerves for the season ahead and getting to grips with a completely new sport, because obviously you're touching on style of play there, but I don't know, like, did you watch much of the AFLW last year before you came out? Have you got a good understanding of the game already, or is there anything that maybe you're a little bit still unsure of? Maybe there's a lot of things, I don't know.
Yeah, I have a lot to learn. Yeah, I know that. I've watched games and clips of matches and that throughout the last year, but I know myself there's a lot to learn. I have to get more comfortable with the ball. Back with Gaelic, kicking would be something that I would struggle with. So now that it's an oval ball, it's going to be even more of a challenge. So yeah, no, I do. I know myself I've a lot to learn, and like, I suppose chatting to some of the other Irish girls that have come out and taken this journey, it's reassuring that like they have told me that they've gone through the same thing. They've reassured me that like it's going to be tough at the start, and like not to get too bogged down on the little things, just enjoy it.
So it sounds like you've been talking to a few of the girls before you came out that have already plying their trade here and have went through the same experience that you're going through. What has been the best piece of advice that has been given to you, like the piece of advice that was maybe the most profound and really hit home, or is it too early to say?
Yeah, no, I've been chatting to a good few of the girls, like obviously Jen, it's great to have Jen. I can throw her a message at any time and she's really honest, like she'll just tell me how it is, and the experience she went through as well. I'm lucky that I have her. I've been chatting.
Take that with a pinch of salt there.
I know.
She's come over and won everything.
I know. She's done so well.
It's so easy.
Yeah, she made it look really easy. Yeah. I was chatting to Anya Tai. So Anya would actually be like my neighbour back in Leitrim. She's like 10 minutes up the road. So it's gas. We're both out here now. She had kind of recommended, like, you know, the Giants brought me out here, and they seen how I play. So bring my own style to the game. Like, follow what the coaches are telling you, but they've brought me out here for a reason. So do my own thing. And I suppose some of the girls on the team, like on the Giants, like they've told me what Cora did. Like when Cora came out, she just did her own thing. Like she picked up the game so quickly, obviously, but she had her own style to it, and like that's what made her so successful. She did so well by just doing her own thing. Yeah,
That's great advice.
yeah.
Have they had any chats with you around position yet? Or are they going to try you in a couple of different positions and then see which one sticks?
Yeah, they've initially said that I'll be kind of starting in defence. It seems to be like the easiest place to learn the game, that you're kind of behind the ball and you can see what's happening. So they said that they'd start me there, maybe on the wing, because I have that kind of bit of running in me. Maybe on the wing, and see how the season goes on. Could push up the field a little bit then, which would be nice.
What are you looking forward to the most? Because I'm just laughing there, because having coached against you, it's quite frustrating when you get the ball inside your own 45 and then you just take off with the ball and carry it up to the far 21 when you're coaching against you. I'm sure it's great when you're with you, but now you won't even really need to take a hop or solo. You could just take off. So that might be a real strength of your game. I suppose it might stand to you when you're applying your trade and playing during the season.
Yeah, that's something I kind of brought up to the coaches. I'm struggling with bouncing the ball. Every time I bounce it, it's not coming back up to me. It's not the Gaelic ball. So I'm struggling with that. And they were like, you know, don't get too bogged down in the bounce. You're not going to be bouncing it too much. But in my head, I'm like, oh, I really want to run with it. Like, that'll be my thing. I think, like, get it and run and be able to take, I think it's 15 steps you can take. So, like, yeah, that'll be massive. I'd love to be able to do that. But I think the nature of the game, you get tackled, you're brought down. You're not going to be running that much in it. But yeah, looking forward to the new challenge as well. You know, as I said, like, the kicking is going to be a challenge for me. I'm actually quite lucky in a way that I kick off my laces, which everyone in Dublin and every coach I've had in the past have been absolutely slating, being like, how can you not kick off your instep? But it's actually working out in my favour now that I can kick off my laces, which is great.
You saw it coming.
I saw it coming, yeah. All the coaches at home are like, oh God, she's going backwards now. All the progress. But yeah, looking forward to the new challenge, definitely. And I suppose the whole professionalism, excited to see the difference between Gaelic and AFLW, like the professional side of things. Because
I would imagine if you were playing for a county that or a club that hasn't experienced that much success and you came over here, it might be a bit daunting, all of the hype around the game and all of the professional aspect of it being so present in the media and there being so many people at the games and that. But following your experience last year and getting to Croke Park and winning All Irelands, like, do you think that is standard to you now, that you're not really that nervous about playing in front of crowds because you've played in front of 80,000 people?
Yeah, no, I think I'd probably still get a bit nervous. But yeah, I suppose the more you do it, the easier it gets, or the more experience you have with it, that like you block out the crowd or you block out all of the sound outside and you just focus on your little things that you have to work on. And I suppose we did a lot of work with that coming up to the All Ireland with Dublin, like just what do you do when like you hear that crowd or when you're running out onto the field, or so I suppose I have that bit of experience to bring with me, that it's probably not the biggest thing playing with like a big crowd at some of the matches. But yeah, it's good to have that experience, I suppose, from last year rather than coming in completely blind to it.
Did you have a strategy yourself, like a personal strategy to dealing with that?
Yeah, it was kind of like for the parade, I suppose I was just staring at Jen in front of me, just looking at her. I was just thinking of my 3 jobs that I had to do. I just got 3 little simple things and just kept playing them over in my head. And that was the only thing I was trying to think of. Like, didn't look at the crowd once. I know my family had like a big sign saying like "Go Éilish" or something, and like at the end of it they were like, "Did you not see our sign?" I was like, I did not look up at the crowd once. You just block it out. So it's just trying to like completely like put yourself in a pitch that like there's no one there, it's just you and it's just a game. And yeah, just focusing on those few little things to kind of get your head right.
Very process oriented, isn't it? It's very like, okay, I'm just going to do what I can do and control what I can control, and then let everything else take care of itself.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think with a big game like that or big matches out here, it could be really easy to lose focus and kind of forget why you're there or what your job is. And like, it's only 60 minutes, I suppose, back at home. It's longer here, but it goes so quick, and like one mistake can turn into two. So you really just have to tune in and get focused from the word go.
Talk to me about last year then, like reflecting on it now. What's the overwhelming feeling you have having experienced that class first year with Dublin, like top class?
Yeah, last year was just amazing. I don't think 2023 will be topped. It'll be a hard one to top. Yeah, just the whole year from start to finish. You couldn't write it. Like, me in January back in 2023, if you had asked me like what was my year going to look like, I would never have been able to like tell you what happened. So yeah, I think it was just like the whole journey starting off with Dublin, because there was so many of us new, and you know, we were all kind of starting from scratch, all the new players coming in. We had a lot to learn, and we had to learn fast. And then just seeing how things kind of came together really nicely. Winning the Leinster, it's amazing. Like, that to me, I was like, I would have been happy if I won nothing else, just to win a Leinster final. I was over the moon. Like, I know it just made my family so proud as well. Like, but then to go on and win the All-Ireland, so overwhelming. Just would not expect anything like that to happen. So it's just the best year. Yeah,
It's a bit surreal.
Definitely. I think it doesn't really hit you until like weeks later. I know the day of the All-Ireland, like, obviously I was delighted and it was great, but you really don't, it doesn't hit you until a couple of weeks later. You're just sitting there and you're like, God, that actually happened. Like, I actually won the All-Ireland. Just a random thought that would just jump into your head. You'd be like, or you couldn't sleep. I remember I couldn't sleep for weeks after, to just be in bed, like trying to go to sleep, and I'd be like, the whole final would just be playing away in my head. Yeah, it's amazing.
Like, a lot of people would say it's my dream to win an All-Ireland. Like, you think about winning an All-Ireland. Obviously, it might be more accessible, I suppose, or likely when you have the different tiered counties in ladies football. But to win a senior All-Ireland, was that something that you thought about when you were younger, or was it something that didn't seem that real?
Yeah, like, I always would have watched it on television, seeing like all the captains going up, getting their cup, and the celebrations afterwards, and I've always would have watched it on television, but probably never thought that it would be me. Never thought that I'd be able to go up and do that. So I think only when I got in with Dublin at the start of the year there last year that I kind of started thinking like, God, this actually could be possible. So that was probably the first time I ever thought like, yeah, could actually go and do this.
Did you learn a lot in the last year with that experience with Dublin? Was there a lot that you took on board maybe that'll improve you as an athlete going forward?
Definitely, yeah. Last year was a massive learning curve. I learnt so much, and I suppose I was very lucky with Dublin. Like, the management panel were fantastic. There was someone for every aspect of the game. If there was anything you were struggling with or you wanted to improve on, you could message any of the coaches and they'd be more than happy to help you at any time of the year. And like, that really stood to me. Like, you just had support everywhere you went.
Did that make it harder then, having that experience and having that network and improving so much as an athlete in that first year with Dublin? Did it make it more difficult to say, okay, I'm going to go to Sydney now?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It was such a hard decision. I can't express how hard that decision was to be coming here and not be playing with Dublin this year, especially after winning. I think it's like some people are saying like, oh, well, you know, at least you won. But I'm like, that actually makes it harder. When you get that taste of success and winning, you just want to be a part of it again, and you just love to do it all over again. So yeah, like the hardest decision I've had to make. It was so difficult over the winter months. Like as I said, I'd gone and done a bit of travelling, and some days I'd wake up and be like, yeah, going home, going to go back and do it all again, like, or get the opportunity to do it all again. It'd be amazing. And then other days I'd say, God, like, I've got an opportunity here to play AFLW. Like, am I going to get that again in a couple of years? Is this my time to go and do it? And then there was the whole side of like going travelling and like actually seeing other parts of the world, like Sydney. If I don't go now, am I ever going to go? And the years can go by so fast. Like, so yeah, it's just a really, really tough decision. But
it sounds like it wasn't a decision that you made in, say, a week or two, but it was like months and months of questioning, okay, I'm going to do this. No, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll go back. Maybe I'll do this. So when you left Ireland, it sounds like you hadn't yet made a definitive decision that you were definitely 100% bought in and staying in Sydney.
Yeah, no. Our plan was kind of like go travel for a couple of months up until Christmas time. And then by then I'd know if I was going to come back or not. So that was kind of my thought process. I'd give it a couple of months and see if I was going to come back or not. And then the offer came through from the Giants, and then that just put a spanner in the works completely. So yeah, just, I think like with a decision like that, you can't, like, it was nearly taken away from my travelling. I was thinking about it so much that you just have to make a decision. And I think you go with your gut feeling. Like, if there's something in your gut that's just telling you have, like, if you're leaning more slightly towards going, you have to just go with it, and make the decision, and just, you can't look back. Otherwise your head will just be all over the place.
You're no stranger to making these types of decisions. So I would like to be in your seat.
God.
Oh my God.
I know.
Like, when Mick came calling last year to play with Dublin, was that an easy decision to make, or was it a question in your mind that, like, I'm from Leitrim, like, I'm going to play for Dublin?
Yeah. I suppose it was, no, I was definitely happy to go in and play with Dublin. Definitely, I thought it would be a massive opportunity. I played with Nafina for my first year, and we made it to the county final. And I suppose Mick or some of the management had kind of been spotting different people, and there was about 40 of us that were added into like a development squad group chat. And they obviously didn't realise that I was from Leitrim.
With a name like O'Dowd.
Yeah, no, they definitely didn't know. Until then I went to the training, and I remember then we did like kind of a time trial, and you know, that would be my strength. I had done well at that, and I remember one of the coaches came over and he was like, who are you? But yeah, I think from then they kind of looked into it and seen, would it be possible for me to play with Dublin? And because I had played with Leitrim only 2 years before that, they kind of said that it wouldn't really be possible. County Board wouldn't approve of it. So yeah, back in my head I was kind of thinking I'd love to be a part of it. It was something I was like, God, that would be, like, the couple of weeks that I trained with the development squad, I felt like I'd improved so much. Even in those couple of weeks, the training was outstanding. I'd never been a part of something so detailed, and it was the development squad. And then, yeah, so they had kind of said, look, we won't be able to take you. And at that point, I had kind of thought that would be it. Like, I wouldn't be able to get in with Dublin at all. So I stepped away then, and kind of the back of my head was kind of thinking, maybe down the line, like next year, or even in a couple of years, they might be more open to taking me if they see that, like, you know, I am committed, like I will push myself and try and improve. So, yeah, the following year then it all worked out.
That is mental though. It is like that. You were playing with Leitrim a couple of years before, so they were saying that the county board wouldn't approve it. And I'm not sure if it's a case because Leitrim it wouldn't sit well with, who I'm sure would just wish you well, because you're not playing with Leitrim at that stage. You're up in Dublin full time. You're teaching. You're playing with Nafina. Like, your life is there, and they're probably more likely to win the All Ireland than Leitrim are. I hope. Sorry to everybody in Leitrim that hears that. So it's a huge opportunity, but like for you to just step away and then have a waiting game after having that opportunity within your grasp, it must have been hard to kind of just say, okay, I'll just give my best for the club and whatever happens, happens. But then from what you're saying about the All-Ireland final, that sounds like that's something you're good at.
Yeah. Yeah, after that year, I don't know, I think I kind of went back training with Nafina for the second year, and just, I know I had been told like it probably wasn't going to be a possibility even down the line. Probably not, because I had played with Leitrim. So I'd kind of accepted that. I was disappointed, but there was just a tiny part of me that thought that it could be possible. So I kind of just put my head down for the year, stuck into the gym, did loads of extra kicking, extra sessions down by myself, worked really hard with Nafina, and had a really good second year with them. I definitely improved so much within that year. It was like a development year in itself. So yeah, there was like a tiny part of me that thought maybe at the end of this year, if I do really well, they might have no choice but to take me back.
It sounds like you had good support amongst the Nafina girls as well though.
Yeah.
And that they're doing a lot of extras with you, and maybe they thought that it could be real as well.
Yeah. It wasn't really talked about much. It was kind of something I kind of just kept to myself. It was like, it's a small goal at the back of my head that probably won't happen, but I've nothing to lose than trying to just get better, improve myself, and like, if I'm not going to get in to the Dublin team, at least I've bettered myself and improved myself for the year ahead with club as well. But yeah, no, Nafina have been like a fantastic club, such a great club to have joined. So lucky with them. They're such a great bunch of girls. I feel like I've been playing with them my whole life. Like, they're so good. And the management panel were fantastic as well. Like, they knew what I wanted to work on, and had absolutely no problem coming down, doing a bit of extra work with me as well. They were phenomenal.
Sounds like you've developed a lot over the last few years, and a lot of that is down to club. And as you just touched on there, it might have been a goal in the back of your head, but you don't talk about county when you're playing club. Club is number one, and number one is trying to win a Dublin Senior Championship, obviously. But did it make it easier going in with the county team, having some of the Nafina girls there with you?
Absolutely, yeah. That was probably the smoothest transition going into the Dublin team, because I knew Hannah, I knew Leah, Emma Deely, Orla Martin, Roisin Baker. There was actually a little crew of us. So yeah, that was actually fine going in, because I knew loads of the girls from playing with them with Nafina. Yeah, it was nice having them, and having played with Hannah and Leah as well over the last year. Like, it made me feel a lot more comfortable going in, definitely.
Was there a big culture change or a culture shock going in with Dublin in comparison to playing club with Nafina first, but also playing in Leitrim previous to that? And what were the major differences, if there were any?
Yeah, I suppose all the accents are very different.
Especially yours.
Not as culty, yeah. Yeah, like, I suppose the trainings, I probably didn't find a massive difference coming from Nafina to Dublin. I found the intensity similar enough. It was more like when I transferred initially up to Nafina, that's when I got a bit of a shock. Everything was just so fast and really intense that, like, I thought I was fit, but coming up and getting stuck into ball work, in some of the drills with Nafina, I was gassed.
You're probably marking Hannah as well, though.
Yeah, that didn't help. But yeah, that was probably the biggest kind of shock, like the speed of the play. Everything was so fast, and like from drill to drill, it was just like there was no recovery time. It was just go, go, go. That was probably the biggest change. Yeah.
Do you think that comes partly from resources and from having numbers available as opposed to playing back home?
Yeah, I suppose like the population in Dublin is obviously so much bigger than Leitrim, so there's more girls to pick from, and I suppose there's more of an emphasis in Dublin with like underage and development of players. Like there's development squads for every age group nearly in Dublin, whereas you just wouldn't have that in Leitrim, so it's a lot to do with that as well.
And also knowing a couple in the Dublin squad, Sammy makes sure that the training sessions flow quite quickly and they are quite rapid and quite intense. Talk to me about what you've learned over the last year from both Sammy and from Mick, because two obviously top class, world class coaches.
Yeah, unbelievable. Both of them, they're just class. I'll start with Sammy. Yeah, he got us in some shape, I have to say, especially because there was so many of us new. There was a lot of us that had kind of been exposed to like club sessions, but we had a lot to learn in terms of like that intensity. But he eased us in really nicely. It was probably my first time doing like pitch and gym sessions straight after each other. That was like my first exposure to that, and I remember the first couple of weeks my body was just in bits. And I remember going to Sammy, I was like, is this normal? Like, should my body be feeling like this? He was like, yeah, it should. But yeah, no, his sessions were just unbelievable. Like, painful, really painful. But you knew you were just getting stronger and getting so much fitter. And yeah, I suppose when everyone's in it together, like you're pushing through those really hard sessions together, it makes it that bit easier as well. But no, Sammy's fantastic. We had different types of sessions, and you knew before the session what one it was going to be like. You're like, oh gosh, it's going to be a real tough session. You'd prepare yourself for it. But no, he was fantastic. He really, like, he was a massive part of us winning the All-Ireland, because like you could see on the day we had such power and speed, like, and like even Carla Rowe there at the end, like everyone was gassed and she just ran the whole length of the field and scored a point. Like no one could keep up with her. He just had us in some shape. And then Mick is fantastic as well. Like he has a really good eye for things. He was able to, like, first of all, pick such a fantastic management panel. He knew who we wanted on the panel, the management panel, and he was able to like pick different coaches that had like all areas of expertise. And yeah, he literally transformed our whole team from January to August. Like within a couple of months he was able to make us an All-Ireland winning team, which is crazy. So yeah, he's unbelievable. Never worked with anyone like Mick before. He's great.
Shout out to Sammy. I'll see you on the golf course when I'm back in a couple of weeks, and Mick as well. I haven't seen you since, I bet you, a couple of times up at Thomas Davis, but all I hear is good things. You didn't know that was going to be on the horizon for you when you moved, though. So talk to me about the decision and to move and transfer from Shauna Heslin's up to Nafina in Dublin, because it's one that crosses a lot of players' minds at the moment, especially because everybody's like working in Dublin, so many people, and it is getting more and more difficult to get down the country for training, or up the country in your case. So like, how difficult was that decision to make, to say I can't actually handle coming home here to play for Leitrim and play for Ballinamore?
Yeah, that was a really hard decision. Like, I suppose it's something that I didn't just decide overnight. Again, it was probably over a couple of years was the back of my head. But yeah, I think there was 1 year, it was like the last year before I transferred, was like a really bad year for me. I just was not doing well in terms of football. And And it was funny, like with the club, we had actually never done so well with Ballamore, Sean Hesson's. It was the first time we got to a county final. And like even at that, I had no motivation to improve myself. I was kind of just at a lull where I was just kind of slogging through and like getting through games. It wasn't really impacting the game. And my sisters would still laugh about it. They were like, I couldn't even finish 30 minutes in midfield that year. I was just gassed. I had no energy. And like after every match I'd come out of it and be like, God, yeah, I really need to improve now. I need to work on this and that. And I just do nothing about it. So that motivation was definitely lacking. Yeah, that was probably the year that it really hit home for me. I was like, I need to change something. And the driving was a massive part of it as well. Like I found it really hard driving up and down to Leitrim 2-3 times a week. Like when you're working in Dublin and you're getting in your car straight away, drive down the country for training, and like you train for your couple hours, get back in the car, drive back up to Dublin. Like it could be 1 o'clock in the morning by the time you get back. And I know a lot of footballers are doing that in Ireland, and like it's such a commitment. And I would have found like my body would have been in bits then, you know, sitting in the car for 2 hours, then you get out and you're kind of in bits and you're trying to organise yourself then for the next day, and before you know it then you're driving back down to do it all again on Friday. And you could have matches like in Limerick or Louth, and you're getting the bus with the team and then getting back to Leitrim, and then you have to get back in the car back up to Dublin. I suppose I was just losing the motivation, and I suppose the enjoyment was starting to kind of, I was losing the enjoyment for it. But like I loved being out. Like once I got the drive done, I loved being out playing football, like with the girls and like girls I've been playing with since I grew up. I loved all that side of things. It's just I found it hard to kind of balance both, and then like having some sort of a life in Dublin as well. Like my friends were all like, what'll we do this weekend? And I was like, oh, driving down the country for football. So there was a few things that were kind of at me, and yeah, look, it was a really hard decision to make, because like I've such love for like my club back at home, Ballamore, and playing with Leitrim since, you know, under 12s with Leitrim. So really tough decision, but yeah.
But I think people will respect that decision more now, because that kind of sounds like burnout.
Yeah.
Do you think you were burnt out?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Like to think I couldn't play a full match, like full 30 minutes. I had to swap and like going half forward, even though that wasn't much better. I was still gassed. I was completely burnt out.
And you were trying?
I was trying. I was making all the sessions, and
to your detriment, probably.
Yeah, it kind of got to a stage where I was like driving down the country on a Friday, we'll say, for training, and I'd already be thinking like, God, I have to do this all again now next week. It'd be just kind of like thinking of the next thing. I wasn't actually being present. And yeah, it was really, that year in particular was really tough. And I suppose when you get that kind of that feeling, you kind of, something has to change, because the thoughts of doing that all again for another year was just, it was hard. Yeah, but then again, equally as hard to like have to make that decision to transfer as well. You don't want to do it, but you kind of have to look after yourself as well.
But that's probably happened to a lot of athletes, and they're probably thinking about doing a similar thing and transferring, but they're probably afraid of what people will say. So would you have any like specific advice that you would give to somebody in that position now? Maybe it'd be more useful if you imagined the advice that you would give to yourself back then.
I think it's very personal. Like if it's someone that's just finding the drive hard, you know, you're not going to transfer, like you get on with it or whatever. But I think if it's something that you're thinking about a lot, or if it's like you have a feeling in your gut that, you know, for me it was like I just wasn't adding anything to the team. I wasn't improving. I was just kind of at a really low point. I think it's very personal. It's like something that if you're feeling that you're not able to give it all and all that commitment to the team, You have to have a think about it, but you know, it's something that you know, it's very personal to yourself. Like whatever situation you're in, you have to kind of have a think about it, and not to worry about what people are going to think. You know, that's a big one as well. You really have to be selfish in those times, and you have to look after yourself. Like it's your own mind that you have to look after, and just block out. Like if people are going to say something to you, like you have to be ready for that. Like, and you're doing it to like better yourself and like for your own head. Yeah.
But it does sound like as well, if you were going through that for 1 year and you went through that for multiple years, and other players go through that as well, or maybe would go through it, there would be a risk that they'd stop playing altogether because it's affecting them so much. So we're probably better off keeping people playing the game and having them transfer than the one club, one athlete kind of model that the GA tries to run with. It hasn't run with. There's always been people transferring. It's just probably more apparent now because of some high profile ones.
Yeah. I like think of myself, if I hadn't made that move, where would I be now? I don't know. I really don't know.
You'll be in Sydney anyway.
Probably not. Maybe here but not playing football. I don't know. It could have got to that point that I just slowly started stepping away from it, or stepping away from Leitrim, the county side of things, and maybe just sticking with club. You could see that happening, definitely. So yeah.
Talk to me about Leitrim and Ballinamore then, because obviously when you're playing with Dublin, living in Dublin, I'd imagine it's harder to get home. Did you try to get home as often as you possibly could? And if not, then what did you miss the most about going home to Ballinamore?
Yeah, I never really thought of that when I was transferring. I kind of was just like, it'll be great. I'll be able to just pop down the road for training, and then I'll have my whole weekend off to do whatever I want with the girls. Or I never really thought of the whole, God, I actually won't get to go home. Because I'd been going home so often for training that never really popped into my head. So, you know, especially last year with playing with Dublin, like trainings were at the weekend, so you don't get to get down to Leitrim as much. And it's something that I completely had forgotten about with the whole move. I was like, oh yeah, I won't get to go home as much, which is tough because obviously all the girls in the Dublin team are going home every night to their families. And it's the little things like having your dinner cooked for you, or just the kind of comforts of being at home that I would have missed out on. But like that's what you know that's what you sign up to when you're playing with Dublin and you're from Leitrim. But yeah, no, like to be fair, Mick was great last year. He knew what I was going through, that I didn't get to go home as much, so he often would have been like, you know, do you want to go home this weekend? Like, take the training off, you can do your own session. Especially earlier in the year, he would have mentioned it a few times, being like, look, at like this training session isn't that important. You can go do it at home. Do your gym session back in Leitrim if you want to go see your family. So, like, that meant the world to me because it was lovely to be able to get back down.
People from Dublin will be thinking, why the hell would you want to go to Leitrim? What do people get wrong about Leitrim?
Leitrim's lovely.
Lovely Leitrim, sure.
Lovely Leitrim, yeah. I think like the best part of it, like especially in Ballinamore, is just like that sense of community. Like everyone knows everyone. It's such a tight community. Like when someone's telling a story about someone in Leitrim, you know all the characters. Like, no, like being at home is great. Like all the kind of matches are always a big one. You go down to watch the lads' matches or the girls' matches, and like everyone comes down and supports the team and the club, and yeah, it's a great place to be from. Yeah.
And the lads and the ladies have been going quite well in Shauna Hessens over the last few years.
Yeah.
Last year, you weren't the only O'Dowd in Croke Park.
No.
What was it like watching that journey from the sidelines?
Yeah, God, my mom nearly had like heart failure. She's like, all she wanted the last couple of years was for one of us to get to Croke Park, and then like we provide her with nothing for years, and then bang, we're all in Croke Park in the same year. Yeah, I wasn't actually even at the match. I was still travelling, so that was a tough one. I would have loved to have been there. But I was kind of streaming all their matches, like when they got to the Connacht. Like the girls did so well last year. Like they made so much history for the club. Even to win the county final, like that was the first history made in the club. And then they went on and won Connacht. Like that was huge. And then the All-Ireland semi-final was, like I was streaming that, and I remember it kept cutting, and I was ringing Dad trying to find out like what's the score, what's going on, and it was like, I think I was in Vietnam at this stage, and it was like 2 a.m. But that was a really special one, I think, the All-Ireland semi-final, because it was the first time that the Ballamore pitch had like opened up the grounds again, because they had just reconstructed the whole pitch. So that was a special one, that they had won the All-Ireland, and it meant they were going to Croke Park. And my sister had actually been out travelling with me, and she flew home for it. So yeah, it's a really special one. They did so well.
To talk about community and talk about playing for your parish and playing with your friends is one thing, but playing with your family is another thing. Watching that journey and watching them play together, obviously it's years in the future, but does it give you an inkling that you would like to play for Sean O'Heston's again some stage, depending on where you find yourself in life, obviously?
Yeah, I suppose it's hard to know at the minute. Like all the decisions that I've had to make in the last while.
Pretty far away for the commute.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it would be like lovely to play with Ballamore and Leitrim again, especially that like my sisters are on the team. It would be all the more special because it has been so long. It feels like it's been so long now. And like girls that I've been playing with from primary school, like that would be really special to kind of finish my career playing with those girls again. But I don't know. I really don't know at this stage. Who knows what the future holds.
Do you miss going in for a drink in Priors after a game?
Yeah, God, Priors is a great one to go for. It's the kind of the club pub, little hall of fame there in the corridor. Yeah, whenever I'm at home, like we'd always go into Priors. And I suppose my family are always at home. They'd be like, we were only in there last night. And I'd be like, sure, we'll go in for one. Like, because I never get home. But yeah, it's like whenever there's a lads match or the girls are playing, like it's just kind of ritual. You go into Priors afterwards and have a debrief on the game.
Get you sort you out.
Yeah.
Talk to me about playing multiple sports when you're younger, because it's obviously stood to you, because the people have been mentioning on social media about your background in athletics and potentially that playing a factor in you running 1.6 in a record time, obviously for the Giants. But from listening to your mum speak at the Leitrim Sports Star Awards, which you won this year, so big congrats on that. She must have been a taxi driver when you were younger. She's driving you all over the place for all different sort of sports.
Absolutely, yeah. Mum threw us into like everything going. No matter what there was. If there was a new club starting, she threw us into everything: gymnastics, dancing, football, basketball, badminton. I think her hope was that like she tried us at everything, we'd be good at one thing, surely. So yeah, athletics and football were probably the two that we stuck with for the longest. And like athletics is probably something that we didn't enjoy as much as football. I suppose it's the kind of individual sport. We way preferred going to football, just we got more enjoyment out of it. But yeah, definitely stood to me throughout the years. Like Dad would have been the big driving force behind athletics. When we were out training, like he would have had us out like the back roads of Ballamore, and like when we were younger he would have been out on his bike and cycling beside us running, and he'd be like shouting names of girls in the athletic competitions that are coming up behind you, like to try and push us further and further, like you have another gear, keep going. And then as we got older he got the van out. He'd be driving with the van, and the same thing, the head out the window, he'd be trying to get us to go faster. So yeah, he was definitely the driving force with the athletics. As much as we disliked it, it definitely stood to us, because yeah, you know, you learn so much from athletics, and that I suppose athletics like that part of Gaelic is quite important, the fitness side of things, and it's definitely stood to me now.
What about competing in an individual sport, and then how that taught you lessons that were valuable going into team sport?
Like they're so different. I suppose it's kind of like a lonely sport, isn't it? Athletics. You're doing it all by yourself. It's hard to motivate yourself. Whereas like when you're doing your runs with the team, you can just like get a group together, be like, right, let's do it. Let's try get it done within this time or whatever. Like you push yourself so much more. Whereas going out to do your own run, you just it's tougher. Like individual sports were never really our thing. Like we did it, but didn't get as much enjoyment out of it. Like it was more the kind of the group aspect and the social element that I enjoyed way more.
But you're lucky in a sense that you had a little team the whole way growing up that you could go out and run with, I guess, in your sisters. Do you think that helped you to become the athlete that you are now? And are you still as competitive with each other as you were when you were younger?
Yeah. The three of us would have been out running. My oldest sister doesn't play, but the next like two sisters up, we would have always been out running the roads. Laura was always like the fast one.
She'll get the contract next week.
Yeah, she's like much fitter than me. She's such an athlete. But yeah, she was always the kind of the talented one at athletics. So I think myself and Ciara were kind of just brought along for the journey because Laura was winning All Irelands and everything with athletics. She was really good. But yeah, I remember we did like a 16 kilometre one day. The three of us just took off. We were like, right, we'll go out and do a run. It's like, as I said, it's easier doing it with a group, and especially like your sisters, it's that bit easier. We took off anyways and did a 16 kilometres, and it was probably the first and last time myself and Ciara will ever beat Laura. Laura was bent down and she couldn't finish. She had all full of cramps, and yeah, that's our claim to fame now. We bet Laura, first time ever.
Don't let her live it down.
Yeah.
They'll be very proud, up very early to watch you hopefully play your first game for the Giants in a few months. I think it would be a miss to not congratulate them on a stellar year last year as well, even if they didn't get over the final hurdle of the All-Ireland win, which you probably can hold over them now going forward too. But hopefully they can go on for another stellar year this year with Shauna Hessens, and hopefully the Dubs can, I can't say that. I was about to say it, but hopefully somebody else wins. Sorry to Lauren and all the other girls that I know that are playing with Dublin. I think it is a good time to move on to quickfire questions before we finish. So the first one is proudest achievement to date.
Has to be the All-Ireland with Dublin. Yeah, such a magical memory. Never forget those memories. Yeah, can't be beaten, I don't think. I think it's like very special because like if I was lucky enough to ever go on and win a second All-Ireland, I think it's just different to your first one. It hits differently. So yeah,
just do what Jennifer did now.
Yeah.
Win a grand final.
As easy as that.
Then you'll top it.
Yeah.
Favourite athlete of all time?
Kelly Harrington. So the school I'm teaching in Dublin, she went to that school, and I suppose it's a disadvantaged area. It's a Deshpan 1 school, so to see her come from that area to have done so amazingly in her sporting career, she's like such an inspiration to all the like young girls and boys in that area, that they can go on and do what she did. Like she's an inspiration.
It must have been hard to say goodbye to them as well, to come out here.
Yeah, a lot of goodbyes.
A lot of tears.
Yeah.
Loads. What's the biggest thing that you've learned in the last 12 months?
Probably like anything is possible. Because as I said, like back in January 2023, I would not have thought I would have gotten a Leinster final, an All-Ireland final, and an AFLW contract. Like I would never have been able to see that. So I think just like anything is around the corner, you never know.
It's a testament to the work you've put in through the years as well, and you fully deserve it. But the last one is, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
God, I was pretty lazy back at 18. I probably would have given myself a shake. Probably just you're on the right path. Go with your gut. If you're feeling something and if it's the way you're feeling and it's something that you want to do, you have to just go with it and forget about what people are going to say or think. You have to put yourself first sometimes. Yeah, you're on the right path.
Deadly. Well, a great year, and hopefully another great year to come. Thanks a million for a great conversation, Éilish.
Thanks for having me.